Man, I know I'm late with this Acolyte episode 6 review, but I'm sorry. This was so boring that I could hardly be bothered to review this piece of shit, but here we go. The Acolyte episode 6 is basically one really weird scene and the rest is completely unremarkable. This episode is basically 3 narrative strands, one following Osha, who's on this unknown planet with Smilo Ren, who's trying to get her to be his apprentice. The second one follows Master Soul and May, who he still doesn't know is May at first, making their way back to Coruscant, I guess. And the third one follows that Jedi played by Leslie Headland's wife, who, by the way, has the acting range of a salad fork. She receives the news that all the Jedi have been killed on that planet Kofar, and she takes a group of Jedi to the planet to investigate what's happened. Among the Jedi who she brings with her is this guy. I don't know his name, but he is the living embodiment of the word soy boy. I mean, this guy has such pathetic anti-charisma that he looks like a gentle breeze could knock him over. At one part of this episode, the Jedi get attacked by one of those flying roly-poly bugs. Then Leslie Headland's wife takes out her purple lightsaber, which slackens into a whip. Look, I'm fine with having different kinds of lightsabers, like the standard or the double-bladed, the curved hilt. Hell, I'm even okay with Kylo Ren's crossguard lightsaber, but a light whip? This is just a bridge too far. This is probably the most boring episode of The Acolyte so far, and that's against some really stiff competition. I mean, nothing happens in this episode. Well, actually, there is one really weird scene. I guess I'll talk about that first. At the very beginning of the episode, Osha wakes up in Smilo Ren's cave lair on this unknown planet. It's the planet with the rocky beach where he was seen igniting his red saber earlier in the show. She follows Smilo Ren as he's ambling about, and he goes into this pool to go skinny dipping. The way this is shot and acted is kind of suggestive, as if Osha might have some sexual attraction to the guy. And when he walks out of the pool, her eyes go down to his dick. This is very strange territory for Star Wars, and look, I understand that Star Wars has had things like Princess Leia in the metal bikini, and I have no problem with that, and I'm sure most Star Wars fans love that too. The difference there is that those are just shots of Carrie Fisher in the bikini. At no point during the Jabba's palace scene in Return of the Jedi is it shot as if one of the characters was oogling her. Of course, you don't full-on see anything of Smilo Ren's that you don't want to see, but the way this is shot, Osha's obviously checking him out, and it's so weird and off-key for Star Wars to be this suggestive. At the end of the last episode, Osha and May had switched places, and I said in my episode 5 review how stupid the character of Master Soul is. Well, no big change here. It turns out that when Smilo Ren found Osha lying on the ground in May's clothing in episode 5, he knew already that it was Osha and not May. But Master Soul in episode 6 is convinced that May is Osha. But Basil, that little ferret tracker alien guy, can smell the difference between them, and he lets Master Soul know that it's May. It's such lazy writing to have a Jedi Master be this inept with his senses, just so you can get Soul and May aboard the same starship so the plot can happen. It's just unbelievable, and I feel bad for Lee Jong-jae for being saddled with this kind of writing. The man learned English to play this role, for God's sake. Whereas Lee Jong-jae is a good actor who's clearly doing his best with subpar material, Amandla Stenberg is absolutely not. As both May and Osha, she is just dull as dishwater, and she really doesn't have any range. And it looks like this show is trying something kind of ambitious with both of her characters that it is just bound to screw up. The Osha and Smilo Ren scenes are filled with pseudo-angsty CW caliber dialogue. Smilo Ren tells Osha how the Jedi didn't want her because they saw anger in her, and he eggs her on to kill him. He's trying to turn Osha to the dark side, and apparently the dark side allows you to access the Force without training. Why then Palpatine said this to Darth Maul in The Phantom Menace, I have no idea.
You have been well trained, my young apprentice. they will be no match for you.
Osha resists Smilo Ren, but she develops a real fascination with his helmet for some odd reason. The episode ends with her putting it on and she's breathing heavily as if she were... Yeah, it's that on the nose. So this show is clearly priming the pump for Osha to turn to the dark side, and since May gets found out by Master Soul, maybe they're gonna try to make her good. Doing this kind of switch would take a lot of time and careful storytelling, and we know that this show can't do the latter. But it doesn't even have the former. There are only 2 episodes of The Acolyte left, and considering how short the episodes are, this show's chances of sticking the landing aren't even that of the Snowball in Hell.